The subject of this program is Gurdjieff and Steve Jobs, and this is John Amaral. George Ivanovich Gurdjieff, by his whim to live and teach so that there should be a new conception of God in the world, invites us to understand Okidanuk, known to us as the great ray of creation, the emanation from the Sun Absolute, the Big Bang, or the entire EM spectrum of photonic emanation whose heavenly province began to be spirited away from the Church and scientifically imaged in the collective Western mind by James Clerk Maxwell's equations, first published in 1861 and promoted by Heaviside in 1884, approximately coinciding with the time of Gurdjieff's childhood. The publication was followed in a very short time, as little as 15 years, by two-way radio telegraphy and telephony, followed by radio broadcasting, electrical generators and motors, DC and AC artificial light, spark coils and plugs, transformers, mechanized factories and mass production assembly lines, relativity theory, particle physics, atomic energy and weapons, X-ray photography, satellites, moon landers, personal computers, cell phones and radioson bank cards, and so on. One particularly inventive use of Okidanuk-dependent technology, arguably the largest construction ever by man, which has the potential to reconcile in a very big way his second functional brain, the brain which Gurdjieff observed as atrophied and a cause of lopsided, topsy-turvy imaging and unbalanced mentation, is the Internet. There has been no greater perfected utilization of this invention than in the products offered by Apple Inc., conceived, nurtured, selected, marketed, and delivered in differently thought-out ways by Steve Jobs. The subject of this program is to place those products and Mr. Jobs' manifestations in the perspective of Mr. Gurdjieff's ideas. In this light we consider Beelzebub's statement to Hussein at the end of the tales. The sole means now for the saving of the beings of the planet Earth would be to implant again into their presences a new organ, of such properties that every one of these unfortunates during the process of existence should constantly sense and be cognizant of the inevitability of his own death, as well as the death of every one upon whom his eyes or attention rests. Only such a sensation and such a cognizance can now destroy the egoism completely crystallized in them. Perhaps there is no more striking and apropos statement by Steve Jobs than, "Remembering that I'll be dead soon is the most important tool I've ever encountered to help me make the big choices in life. Because almost everything, all external expectations, all pride, all fear of embarrassment or failure, these things just fall away in the face of death, leaving only what is truly important. Remembering that you're going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. You are already naked. There is no reason not to follow your heart." Stanford Commencement, 2005. As Apple Developer 1234, beginning 1984, I exhibited at Macworlds and attended its keynotes from 84 to 09. I met Steve Jobs 3 times and aimed to improve the learning process and disrupt or reconcile the learning business via iOS and OS X apps. I've studied Gurdjieff with students of Mr. Nyland, Mrs. Stavely, Mrs. Popov, and Mr. Bennett, and began to attend the All and Everything Conference in 2003. I direct the usschoolofmusic.com. In the lists attached to this program, I provided for you links to some very interesting videos for background. The first of these concerned Richard Feynman and the universe, and the next concerned Steve Jobs. Prologue. John Patrick McGree, my dear grandfather, my childhood Beelzebub, was not an unhappy man, but one day he said to me, "Your childhood will be your happiest time." What did he mean? Did it have something to do with responsibility? If true on some level, can we take this statement in a larger sense regarding humanity's childhood? Arthur C. Clarke refers to childhood's end, the day when mankind realizes it is not alone and never has been. When it comes, what will our responsibility be? When I was a child, I spoke as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. Paul of Tarsus, 58 of the Christian era. We've heard St. Paul's advice before, but is it really a good idea to lose childlike understanding, wonder, and love of learning? What about play? What about games? In childhood, particularly through games, we learn at a great rate. Learning makes us happy. Gurdjieff urged us to strive to learn. He also says, "Wish effort be, practice suffer do." And all is suffering. Can we reconcile happiness and suffering? What in the world do high-tech products have to do with this? Our theme is a big topic and will require several types of media as well as your kind assistance to make sure we all have a familiarity with Gurdjieff's relevant ideas, the timing and significance of the publication of Maxwell's equations about electromagnetism and Gurdjieff's Okidanok, and the primary function of tools dependent on electromagnetism released by Apple over 34 years, particularly the last 7 years before Steve Jobs died. We would like to be on the same page with respect to what happened to the heaven of the Church. Then we will have a better opportunity to grasp some of the most important topics of our time and a possible motive for Gurdjieff's whim to effect a change in the meaning of the word God. Maxwell's descriptions of the laws of electromagnetism were distributed in 1884, 150 years after Isaac Newton, 1642 to 1727, well after the Renaissance, just after the beginning of the Industrial Age. That is, 50 years after Eli Whitney's cotton gin, 1765 to 1825. Without Maxwell's insights regarding the electromagnetic nature of the invisible world, formerly a part of the mysterious heavens, we would have no internet, personal computers, cell phones, portable media players, not to mention electric clocks, indoor lighting, radio, and television. The relatively long duration between Newton and Maxwell is significant and underscores that the rate of innovation accelerated after Maxwell. It is still accelerating, and that is symptomatic of our times. A problem for mankind, but perhaps a blessing in disguise if we can meet the challenge. Here's Gurdjieff, circa 1924 to 1930, about the physical universe. And indeed, each of them is the image of God, not of that God they picture with their bobtailed reason, but of the real God, as we sometimes call our common megalocosmos. The Tales, page 775. The third striving, the conscious striving to know ever more and more concerning the laws of world creation and world maintenance. Beelzebub's Tales, page 385. If we take Holy Son Absolute to be World 3, it would seem consistent to also identify it as the being of endlessness, with World 1 referring to the will of endlessness. Thus, the expression I am becomes a compressed statement of the will and being of endlessness. The existent universe becomes, in this view, the creative expression or outflow from I am. Keith Buzzell, from Chapter 8, Okidanok, in Gurdjieff's Whim. And thereupon, when our common Father endlessness ascertained this automatic moving of theirs, there then arose for the first time in him the divine idea of making use of it as a help for himself in the administration of the enlarging world. Beelzebub's Tales, page 762. When we put together these ideas expressed by Gurdjieff, that the being of endlessness is the great megalocosmos, our universe, that he needs our help, and that we are to strive to know his nature, the well-known Baltimore Catechism statement that we are to know, love, and serve God comes into an adult perspective which revises and clarifies our understanding of the nature of God and the purposes of our lives. According to Gurdjieff, the being of endlessness is the great megalocosmos, which he also expressed as Okidanok, and which we understand to be the full range of electromagnetism. As Richard Feynman said in 1965, quantum electrodynamics is nearly all of physics. What is Gurdjieff's enlarging world? Is it man's world or God's world? How do they differ? As God's world, would it refer to a universe with an infinitely increasing amount of mass, or to a finite universe which is expanding ever larger in time and space? We are familiar with Gurdjieff's ideas that we have three functional brains, and that the functioning of our brains is not balanced, and that this imbalance is most often manifested as an undeveloped or atrophied second brain, the brain of relationship, criticized in the expression, we are third force blind. The third force, the reconciling force, being expressed as the relationship between the first and second forces. So as man's world, does the enlarging world refer to an expanding awareness of the world of the first brain, of mass-based digestive transformations and physical, chemical, and electromagnetic phenomena, or to an expanding awareness of the world of the second brain, beyond play, respectful communication, and cooperation, to historical perspective, faith, hope, love, and conscience? Or does it perhaps refer to an expanding awareness of the world of the third brain, beyond ideas, abstractions, math, science, language, philosophy, and culture, to attending the planning of words, good judgment, character, leadership, principle, degrees of reason and wisdom? Gurdjieff implies that it refers to all of the above taken together in harmonious proportion. To cope with our exponentially enlarging world, special strategic tools appropriate to our time and circumstance, which help develop and facilitate second brain skills and second brain digestion, would be especially useful to assist us in our striving to generally harmonize our emotional function. What should our attitude be toward such tools? Gurdjieff's student J.G. Bennett particularly encouraged his own students to use tools attentively, to keep them cleaned and ready. Why Gurdjieff's Whim? Today on our planet, while some of us are thinking parochially and worriedly about the implications of a world government leading to a homogeneous society, a new world order, others are busying themselves birthing new species, genetically engineered organisms, robots, androids, and exploratory vehicles to and from alien worlds. Yet others are living paleolithically in caves without running water, but possibly detailed emotional lives.